Disclaimer: this video should not be watched by T. Lopes. Meantime, privacy will always be respected. When privacy is violated, all credibility crumbles. The commentary and satire to follow is responding only to that which Lopes has chosen to present to the world publicly. As such, this video goes too far. With coarse language and subject matter, viewer discretion is advised. T. Lopes won't stop abusing the word hate. So you can thank him for this video today, because after everything that's already gone down, he continues accusing me of hate. So I can always respond to new disparaging remarks of the kind you're going to see today. You guys know who Lopes is, right? The composer of Sonic Mania? I view this rivalry of ideas as symbiotic, mutually beneficial, and I assume Lopes feels the same. After all, he made a new music video about pronunciation in 2025. That's where his head's at. So since he continues the volley, game on. It all comes down to which ideas and opinions endure in the long run. At the same time, I don't want a perpetual sparring match, so today's video will bring in new words that weren't factored in before, in a way that hopefully applies to any new comments from Lopes down the line, so that there's less of an indefinite tension, for the sake of the kids and fans. So before we dive into Lopes' new comments, here's a quick 15-second recap catch-up of how we got here. In 2022, I condemned Lopes' hostility and bullying. In 23, it worsened. In 2K24, out of the blue, Lopes attempted to humiliate me to promote Penny's big breakaway, but his stunt failed and dissolved into nothing. And finally, 2025, Lopes rolled into my comment section to say, "Here's to more positive stuff like this, Alex." So that was a few months ago, and I was actually ready to take down the Stephen A. Smith broadcast because it had already served its purpose for the people it affected, and that's why I removed the community post on the topic. We all established where we stood and moved on with our lives, so that particular broadcast didn't need to continue being discoverable, and you will never find me commodifying conflict unnecessarily. So the only reason we're here talking about this today is because Lopes continues disparaging the people in my position. So let's now take a look at Lopes' new remarks that continue to abuse the word hate. And after reading this, I will tell you the shocking twist that contextualizes all of this, okay? The quote reads as follows: "Praise feels good, but it's constructive, non-emotionally charged criticism that helps you grow. You can't fix what you don't see, and sometimes it takes someone else to point it out. Some people like to believe that their hate is constructive, like tearing something down will somehow help improve it. But hate never improved anything. It's just people letting out their own frustration, like a fart." All right, so Lopes is boiling down my entire life's work of critical thinking and satire with integrity down to this simile, like a fart. All right, so why am I not bothered by that? Let's jump right into the big reveal, the curious twist that contextualizes every time Lopes has abused the word hate by expressing this sentiment. We're going to eliminate all gray area and hurt feelings. You ready? Lopes' comments all click into place with the realization that T. Lopes is woke. He's woke. It explains everything. You know how in the woke day and age, if you oppose starvation of children as a war tactic, you're anti-this or anti-that? Ugh, that's hateful. If you're opposed to the Olympic Committee's policy on 12-year-olds, you're phobic this, phobic that. So the word hate is a woke card that Lopes plays when his feelings are hurt and he's backed into an emotional corner, and he wants special treatment. People are dunking on the Sonic Superstars animation, so Lopes says, "Oh, no, that's hate, can't do that." Lopes' woke definition of hate might be fully normal in a candy-ass safe space, which is all well and good, consenting adults, do your thing, but when he takes it a step further and makes global woke demands to the planet, that's when he violates the basic expectation of live and let live. So is Lopes going to turn around and say, "Nope, you can't agree with Luna Lovegood because that's turfy and hateful"? And it's like, Is HBO cutting Joe Rowling a check or not? Is HBO going to have to shut down operations on account of Lopes' personal definition of hate? John Lithgow will make a fine Dumbledore. Can't wait to see it. So this is Lopes' misperception that is clouded by his wokeness. When Lopes sees the Colberts of the world deliver uncompromising satire that is intentionally provocative to make it harder for bullies to ignore, Lopes' mind starts to churn because he only sees and feels this. Look at that. He thinks it's some horrible, indecent thing that shouldn't even be allowed at the table even. But all the while, in his hypocrisy, this Agent Smith vibe is the very energy that Lopes brings to pronunciation topics and other stuff. His social media's got plenty of these toxins too. He uses it to ruminate and air out his grudges and make it your problem. And that's why I had to tap out of his social media pipeline a few years back. I don't want that vibe jump scaring me throughout the week. If you think this is a stretch and you want further proof, be careful what you wish for. You're now going to see exactly what this looks like. Okay? Lopes has spent much of his life severely preoccupied with this abstract boogeyman he calls hate. And it even takes center stage in his music, like in the lyrics of his song called Rains. The lyrics are as follows. It always rains inside my head, always rains inside my head, always rains, always rains. There are things better left unsaid. Now, I added that melody, but how about this lyric too? I know I've got to let it go, but I've been up all night, yeah. It's just too hard to let it go. Get this fear off my mind, yeah. So if my creative intelligence causes Lopes to feel fear, well, we can all hear Lopes' cry for help, and we're here for a much-needed intervention. Lopes thinks that he can do no wrong, and you can't disagree with him with this lyric. Yes, I'm free from human weakness, all the meaningless ideologies. All right. He say he flawless. Okay, so your mindset is the only correct one, free of weakness, and people who disagree with you are meaningless. Yeah, that does sound like Sharia law, now that you mention it. But is Lopes' mind free of weakness? Because by his own admission, it's always raining in his head. That should clue him in that he's a hot mess, that he can get his own act together before he even starts to think about lecturing anyone on how to live. He sings, I came into this world 'cause your heart's gone cold. I've got no faults of my own. That's why I'm claiming your throne. So what you have there is a self-perceived superiority. Okay, so I get to do that in this video to emulate Lopes to make a point that this is no good. And also you know that this video is going to go too far. His narcissism is an open invitation for brutally confident satire. When Lopes sees things in the world he doesn't like, he sulks in a rainy mist of resentment. When I see things in the world I don't like, I see an opportunity to take to the airwaves and contribute my perspective and offer thoughts on how we might cultivate this brief life of ours in the garden of planet Earth. But Lopes is busy moping and lashing out at folks with intimidation. So here's the coup de grace, piece de la résistance. Ready? This lyric here. That's why I hesitate before I turn on my TV and spectate all the hate. What? But even with your eyes closed, it's so plain to see that. So this is the big giveaway, all right? Lopes sees hate not just on Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, but on TV, national broadcast television. Which channels are stressing him out? They abide by the FCC. Lopes thinks he sees hate in South Park, Colbert, me, when in fact what he's actually witnessing is confident intellect, creativity, and not just any creativity, but putting your back into it. So I'm putting myself in the same category with South Park and Colbert, not in terms of Metacritic score, but in regard to mission, methods, and intent. You gotta wonder what Lopes thinks of South Park. Is it hateful? It's in a similar bin with Colbert, after all. When South Park began roasting the president this past month, was that a constructive roast with a message? about the president taking bribes and suing people that disagree with him or hurt his feelings? Also, did South Park then go too far, portraying the president with a small rod or cuddling with Satan in their marriage bed? Here's the thing. Bullies in particular deserve the most savage roasting, even for surface-level attributes like having a small rod. Lopes may not be familiar with the concept of punching up. Intentional humiliation can make a bully burn and churn inside, as the bully's cognitive dissonance works through the cost-benefit analysis of his hypocrisy and ego problem. It's in plain view of the public, who are watching South Park by the millions. Mr. President, it hurts less if you accept it. Just stop with your corrupt bullcrap. You can't extinguish people, least of all people who disagree with you, and someone in Lopes' life needs to tell him that too. Like, what if, as a hypothetical, for purposes of constructive satire, what if I made a parody of this South Park bit in order to roast T. Lopes? The main purpose would be to satirize Lopes' egotistical wokeness and his overextension of the word hate to protect his insecure self-image. Now, since Lopes is a bully, that means that along the way I could poke fun at him for other stuff. And I don't think it would be relevant to bring in the small rod bit, but I could lampoon his imperial wokeness by giving his hair highlights. Like, T. Lopes is the kind of guy who advocates how Blue Sky is so much of a better place to be compared to Twitter. So, in other words, he-him vibes. And that's not even a cheap shot. It's satire with a constructive message, identifying that the root cause of Lopes' global demands and hurt feelings is just his moderate to severe wokeness. That he can let go of the fist that he's clenched over the years due to the world that surrounds him. Now, this 10-minute satire webisode is already more than halfway done, and I want to make it clear that the 10-minute length is a non-factor. If anyone so choose, they could make a 30-minute webisode about this or a full hour. The volume or quantity of components is never someone else's prerogative to workshop. Passionate long-form content makes it harder to ignore the truth, and is far more effective than just repetitive, passive-aggressive memes. This satire will be posted eventually, and you can actually get an in-progress preview of it, not through a link in the description, but right here in this video, right now. No one makes fun of my friends and projects. Did you see me out there? Those Sonic brats were bitching about the Sonic Superstars animation. I really showed them.
I mean, those perspective shots were pretty bad, and a major step down from the animations in Origins.
It's an animation they got for free. Show some gratitude and class.
For free? The game is $60. That's more than Origins, but the animation is worse?
But nothing good happens when you tear down someone's work.
But isn't that exactly how Ugly Sonic was fixed for the movies?
It's different. It's hateful.
You're just whining because you wanted people praising the music you did for the Superstars animation.
But hate can be considered a crime where I grew up.
We talked about this. That GameSpot reviewer wrote a nice review of Penny's Big Breakaway, and you put him on blast because he didn't comment on the music? Are you trying to get Evening Star blacklisted for future game reviews? Christian Whitehead has it hard enough as it is.
I learned music theory for Penny's Breakaway, and it all went to waste. The game flopped.
Isn't it for the best? Otherwise, more people would have found out about that Sonic 4 melody you used in Level 1-1.
You know, you never do anything to simplify my life.
When you overuse the word hate, people stop taking it seriously. That's why wokeness died.
I'm not woke.
People can see your Will Smith vibes. At this point, the only difference between you and Will Smith is swinging your palm at someone. When Satan has the moral high ground over you, that should tell you something. It hurts less if you accept it.
Even Satan pushes back on Lopes overstretching the word hate to disparage good people unfairly. Okay, now, unrelated to the devil, if we extend more benefit of the doubt to Lopes here, his existing issues are further deepened by a civics gap. Civics involves the rights and responsibilities of citizens, including freedom of speech. Aspects of civics can vary significantly from country to country. So, for example, my wife would never need to mold her actions to abide by Lopes' personal definition of the word hate. And my wife would not need to abide by another country's definition of the word obscene, which includes showing your cheeks and neck. Cleavage, too. That is scandalous for some people. She is under no obligation to wear a full body covering in 100-degree weather. And there's no need to bite her tongue about displeasure with the Superstars animation. Now, if she took it a step further and, repeatedly messaged the animation director specifically, that would be inappropriate and unproductive. But Lopes is conflating those two things inappropriately. My wife's sassy comments on the Superstars animation Twitter posting is not for Lopes to workshop, and even though Lopes did canonically take back some of the unfortunate wording of his Superstars tantrum, he just backslid into his old ways in November 2024, which was touched upon in the Stephen A. broadcast. So the ticking time bomb of Lopes' perpetual hurt feelings could be caused by specific factors taken into account. Lopes was born and grew up in a country where definitions of hate and even the laws surrounding them are different from how they're defined in the United States. Lopes moved to America as a teenager, with his education concluding upon a high school diploma. Now, would I count on American high schools to catch Lopes up on American civics? Not really, no. America's education system is in a really bad place these days. Lopes himself can even testify that directly in his following statement here. The USA has a big education problem, which became immediately apparent to me when I moved here from Portugal age 16 and resumed high school. I was now relearning everything I had learned in 5th grade back at home, simplified. So we'll quickly add a sick notation here for a couple spots, but okay. So is Lopes being hateful here? Is this improper? No, it's not. His freedom of speech allows him to disparage learning institutions, and in this case, it happens that I absolutely agree with him. USA education is exceptionally bad, and it is inexcusable. It's a lot of mindless regurgitation, and it doesn't emphasize critical thinking and dynamic application. So if U.S. schools just taught him what he had already learned in 5th grade, then his education, in fact, ended the day he moved to the USA. So nowadays, Lopes roams around making demands based on a check he's trying to cash from a social bank that defines hate a particular way. But, dude, hate is when you grill or disparage someone based on their intrinsic attributes like race or sex, but no one is obliged to play along with Lopes' expanded definitions, and no full body coverings neither. So everyone watching this now, everyone who has ever been involved in this gradual situation, all you need to do is review the tenets of your own country's constitution, the social civics contract. Ensure that you're abiding by the agreement in the constitution of the country in which you reside. So when it comes to rendering judgments about international behavior that you've witnessed, you have to factor that in. For example, with my investigations into compositions that are in fact not quite originals, you'll find that I don't bring harsh judgment or roasting upon Japanese composers in particular. As in, when it comes to Japan's particular paradigm for hearing someone's song, lifting melodies of a certain length, to using their own new song without permission or credit. That is an artistic paradigm in Japan that I do not yet fully understand in regard to etiquette and transparency and respect, as well as how that may have evolved from the Wild West of the internet to now. So I'm not going to do a satirical cartoon poking fun at Sonic 1's composer for that kind of thing. But you bet I will still report on it unapologetically, demonstrating how Marble Zone contains 4 measures of composition work by Sid Raymond. So, meanwhile, Lopes' woke sensitivity could be partially explained by the civics of the country where he lived, and that's why we can extend some benefit of the doubt, but draw a firm boundary at his demands that we play along. If Lopes encounters creative and confident opinions that he doesn't like, he ought to blacklist that person from his Thanksgiving festivities and unsubscribe from their content. Vote with your wallet, not with your clenched fist and heckling, not by shoving the weight of your community position for peer pressure. Now, in the wake of the Sonic Mania music theory video, one commenter said that most Sonic fans would commit a felony if it meant getting complimented by T. Lopes. Yeah, I know, and? What makes you think I'm like most Sonic fans? I'm a Ravenclaw, show some respect. 250 Hufflepuffs co-signed on this sentiment, and to each and every one of those anonymous clickers, I'm going to gently disclose now that there's a better way. And I can help you get there, take it or leave it. You could instead live your life in a manner that every day you wake up in the morning already knowing exactly who you are and the value you have to offer. You walk into every conversation with that knowledge, and you don't need anyone else to confirm or validate that. You don't need to fawn over a compliment from a person who is otherwise problematic or aggressive. Lopes' music is tremendous. The way Steve Jobs was a creative genius. But then Steve Jobs sucked ass at so many interpersonal aspects of how he treated people. I am not in the business of dishing out undue respect to the Lopes Jobs of the world. We all lose when that occurs. And the only respect I owe to Lopes is for his excellent music. Many of you defer to Lopes like an infallible deity. And Lopes' lyrics have him looking in the mirror and seeing an infallible deity. So when he brings into the community all this toxic extra woke baggage in addition to his music, I'm under no obligation to accept that on account of Mania is good. If anything, I have to draw firm social boundaries to ensure that my enjoyment of Mania is not compromised. The same way I will also need to speak up about Prince tomorrow. Prince's problems are totally different from Lopes's, but the point is, in order to resume enjoying and promoting their art, it does require me to reconcile how it all fits together in a way that doesn't bring my ethical ledger to a screeching halt. Just like a person might hesitate to buy Hogwarts Legacy, so they think it through to calibrate their moral inventory. And Daniel Radcliffe specifically said it is okay and encouraged to continue enjoying all Harry Potter stuff moving forward, film adaptations, all of it. And that's the thing, you could never keep me away from Sonic Mania. That is mine for the long haul. And doing my small part to address these lingering problems and bullying actually makes me enjoy playing the game more with the knowledge that I've made a society contribution for the many people who love Mania, even if many of them don't recognize it yet. I am currently at a 30% approval rating, and I could gradually get it as high as 80%, but that last 20% not so much. So what does the road forward look like for me and everyone watching this video now? Well, it's a pretty simple if-then protocol. If Lopes' incidents continue, let's talk about how we ought to react to it, were it to occur more down the line. I will point out to you that technically, the Stephen A. Smith-style broadcast I did earlier this year sort of worked, in the sense that no new incidents have occurred since then. Since that dispatch, there have been no new examples of Lopes putting people on blast for expressing their free speech within the terms of service. Like he hasn't made a scene for other people to see, at least that I'm aware of. All Lopes has done since then was, for example, his new pronunciation music video. And he also wrote that new tweet on his own platform that sort of called me out by putting the word constructive in quotes. Lopes is, at times, too much of a coward to more directly say what he's actually thinking, so he speaks with indirect passive aggression instead, and that's true of his defenders too. A handful of Lopes fans have shown up at my live streams just to be a disruption, and more than half of them speak exclusively in unintelligible memes and abbreviations, like I'm not going to do supplemental research just to figure out the teenage brat meme that you're dropping. Say what you mean, use your words, gotta use your words, because that's one step away from snotty moving picture gifs on Twitter. So to those disruptors, return to the public square whenever you manage to muster the balls to do so, because speaking understandably would require the baseline minimum manhood that they currently lack, like Lopes. So, okay, how about the rest of us in the audience who want to contribute their small part to ensure that an overstretched definition of the word hate does not infringe upon consenting adults' activities. You ready? If you ever see T. Lopes put someone on blast by accusing them of spreading hate and saying, you know it's hateful, I said what I said, so his way or the highway, all you need to do to move the needle forward is describe Lopes' posturing as, very simply, Katy Perry's threat. Now, the concept of Katy Perry's threat traces back to her song, Dark Horse. In this song, Katy Perry sings that what she offers in love is premium magic, so you better not pull any funny business. Her expectation here is like, yeah, she's up for this, but you better not lead her on or break her heart because what though? What's going to happen? Is this an empty threat or not? The rap verse of the song gets more specific. You ready for this? You may fall in love when you meet her. If you get the chance, you better keep her. She's sweet as pie, but if you break her heart, she'll turn cold as a freezer. Okay, so the retaliation will be she'll be super upset about it? Okay, but the guy who dumped her is not even going to have to deal with her anymore. That was the whole idea of his piecing out. What Katy Perry fails to see here is that she has zero leverage. Lopes and Perry are demanding you obey their demands, or else.
Or else what? Or else we will be very, very angry with you. And we will write you a letter telling you how angry we are.
By calling this out for what it is, Katy Perry's threat, we can neuter his paper tiger demands. We can neuter his illusion of social clout authority. So be on the lookout for Katy Perry's threat, because anyone being aggressively accused of hate actually does have sensible reason to be concerned about their safety and well-being, as I do when Lopes continually riles up the crowds. Nobody needs to be harangued into believing they're committing a social crime. Does Lopes want people to apologize for being gay while they're at it? That's a hyperbole to make the point that Lopes cannot focus group people into changing into someone else. Be yourself always. Lopes needs to leave that policing to government laws and social media terms of service. Let them take care of these kinds of expectations. So, moving forward, wokeness and Katy Perry's threat may contextualize all public anger Lopes presents to the world. So in that case, I may never need to write another treatise about these unresolved issues of his. So here we are at the final takeaway. Hear this. You never have to accept peer pressure from a cognitively anguished rapper with a high school degree, especially if he can't spell high school. See you at the Megamind 20th Anniversary Gala, and I hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey, 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 hey. Sun shining every day.